And now let's touch on some more things like MRSA. Explain to us, what is MRSA?
It's a Staph aureus, and what it is, it's a germ that that you can pick up through contact by touching something and touching an open wound, touching like if you've been out working in your garden and you've got a thorn or something like that. So you've broke that chain of transmission, and so you become infected with this. And so people with MRSA, it's methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, but it's a staph infection. And years ago, I remember seeing the very first case in the hospital, because that tells you how long I've been working and doing this. But years ago, if you saw a staph infection, you think it's probably something you caught at the hospital. But now what we're seeing, and the trend for the last several years, a community-acquired MRSA or staph infection.
Right.
So you're seeing it a lot more out in the community than you are in the hospitals. And so you're seeing it like in athletes.
Yeah.
I'll say that right in a minute. So what happens is, like, you have people that are playing football and stuff like this, and they're borrowing the same equipment, and they're sharing equipment
Right.
and stuff. And so you may have an outbreak in that. And so you're seeing it more come from the community, just as much more from the community than you are the hospitals themselves. So you've got to break that chain of transmission. You've got to go back to the simple things. There was a doctor years ago in the 1800s, and his name was Semingway. And Semingway, he was at this hospital, and we're in the 1800s now, and he was seeing a lot of pregnant ladies dying. And what he found out was that before that the new doctors that was coming into practice, they may be working on corpse and trying to be in education and trying to figure out everything, but they were not washing their hands before they took care of these pregnant ladies. So he instituted this thing that said, hey, instead of washing your hands after you take care of them, let's do it before. And by doing that, he decreased dramatically, because in the 1800s, you necessarily did not want to go to the hospital to have your children. But after Semingway, and he proved it, he said, let's wash our hands. Then the life expectancy of the babies and the mothers rose astronomical. On the flip side of that, what you don't hear a lot of is that you think, well, that solved everything. Everything worked out well. Well, no, because it come back to consistency again.
Exactly.
He worked there a couple years, and then he left for some reason or another. And so what happened? They got back in their old habits. They wasn't consistently hand hygiene. And so what happened? Your birth rate and everything went down. Your life expectancy went down. And so we've showed that you've got to be consistent with this day in and day out.
Now, what a lot of people don't realize, MRSA is like a skin infection.
Yes,
It will
it is.
break you out in bowls and just different types of skin and irritations.
It does.
And you can spread that around. The stuff that comes out of there, the infection, when it pops out or whatever, you could touch a door handle, you could touch a pen or whatever.
You're exactly right. And so what happens, it doesn't even have to pop out. What you can do is you can scratch it or rub it. There, it's on your hands again. But what we see whenever we have staph infections like this is that many times, majority of the time, it does infect the skin. It does become red and inflamed. And so at this time, there's several treatments out there, but you really need to take an antibiotic. And antibiotics, they're not making them like they used to. A long time ago, there was 20 different companies making all these antibiotics. Now you're down to about 4 major companies, and they're not making them like they do, but the germs are evolving. Right. So what happens with MRSA, you have this skin infection and you touch it, and you don't take your antibiotic, you don't get rid of it. So lots of times people will get over it, they're fine, they never get it again, but sometimes these people will become carriers of it to where that it will reoccur, so that you think, oh, well, I'm fine, everything is well. In a couple of months, you break out in another area of your body. Might be your neck, might be your abdomen, might be your arm. And so you break out on another area. And so it is important to seek medical help. It is important that you look at this and that it be diagnosed, and that when you are prescribed antibiotics and when you are prescribed ways and methods of getting rid of this, that you really do adhere to those ways.